Hello, and thank you for joining us. I am Jasmine Navarez, Digital Content Coordinator at Simulations Plus. I'll be hosting today's webinar behind the scenes, making sure we don't have any technical difficulties. Our presenters today are Neil Miller, Vice President of Simulation Sciences, Nathalie Toublanc, Associate Director of Learning Services, Jeff Dahlen, Senior Staff Engineer, Monica Reina, Licensing Specialist, and Noam Morningstar-Kywi, Scientist 2. During today's webinar, they will share practical tips and best practices for the GPX software upgrade process. Arlene Padron, our Director of Business Development, will serve as our moderator for today. A few housekeeping items before we begin. We take your privacy rights seriously. By registering for and attending this event or participating in the Q&A session, you're allowing us to contact you for follow-up. You may ask questions via the questions panel on your dashboard at any time. If you need assistance, please use the hand raise icon. We'll address all the questions in the Q&A after the presentation. Now I'll hand it over to our moderator, Arlene.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hello from Houston, and thank you everyone for joining us today to get expert insights and practical tips on the upgrade process to GPX. Today's webinar is going to be a mix of videos, live presentations, and a Q&A session. And please use the Q&A box to submit your questions at any time during any one of the presentations. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump in. First on the panel today is Jeff Dahlen, Senior Staff Engineer. Jeff's team made key science and engineering contributions to this latest version of the GPX software update, and for almost 40 years has been supporting Simulations Plus clients and staff. Today, his video will cover in less than 10 minutes how to update the existing GastroPlus license setup and missteps to avoid. Thanks, Jeff, and welcome today.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm a member of the customer care team at Simulations Plus. This is a short video on GastroPlus 10, also known as GPX. In this video, we will be updating an existing GastroPlus installation to GPX. For other videos and written documentation on licensing, installation, and troubleshooting, contact support at simulationsplus.com. This video is for customers who already have GastroPlus licenses and are already using GastroPlus versions 9.9 and earlier. Many of the actions on this video require administrator privileges on the target machines. The video is directed at a licensing contact person in your company who knows how and where he wants to install the software and has the administrator privileges to perform the installation. Here are the steps we will go through: downloading the installation kit, updating a standalone installation, and updating a network installation. For both standalone and network installations, we will be updating only the end user's application. We will not be updating the Flexera license server. GPX will use your existing GastroPlus licenses and your existing Flexera license server. GPX is distributed with Flexera version 11.19. If you're using Flexera 11.12, 11.15, or another version that you got from us or from one of the other 1,500 vendors who use Flexera for licensing, we recommend that you keep your current Flexera setup as it is for now, so you can get GPX up and running quickly. Later, we can help you update your Flexera version if you would like. For those who have used our installers before to install the Flexera license server, note that the demonstrations in this video do not require Java. The GastroPlus application and Flexera license server do not require Java. Only Flexera's LMadmin installer needs Java, and since we are only installing the GastroPlus application today, Java is not required. There is no need to uninstall any previous versions of GastroPlus. Many of our customers leave multiple versions on their machines in case they have to reproduce old results exactly. If you want to create an installation package for your company software portal, please request our documentation for guidance on this. Let's go right into downloading the installation kit. The licensing contact person at your company will have a login to the GastroPlus folders on our ShareFile site already. If you need additional access, please email support. If your company or agency has blocked access to ShareFile, please contact support for alternative download instructions. The download folder for GastroPlus 10 is shown here. The large zip file is the installation kit. There are additional files which may be helpful. Right-click on the large zip file and choose Download. The installation zip is all that is needed to update the end user's machine, whether standalone or network. Download it directly to the end user's machine or download it elsewhere and copy it to the end user's machine. Here we downloaded it to the Downloads folder. Extract all the files from the zip. You can extract them to a new folder right in the Downloads folder. After the files are extracted, we'll be interested in this setup executable in just a moment. Note that if you had downloaded all the files in this folder, ShareFile would have put these in a zip as well. In that case, you'd want to do two unzips, once to unzip the ShareFile zip, and then once to unzip our install kit. Do not try to install from inside of our zip. Let's update a standalone installation. In a standalone installation, the license server and the GastroPlus application are both on the same machine or virtual machine. Standalone installations are most common for short-term evaluation licenses and occasionally for small companies and small work groups. This standalone machine has several versions of GastroPlus installed. Stop any versions of GastroPlus that are running on the standalone machine. On the standalone machine, where you have extracted the files from our installation zip, navigate to Setup EXE and run it as administrator. Select GastroPlus 10.1. The installer will install some prerequisites before installing GPX. The prerequisites shown here are the Access Database Engine, which is used by GPX to import legacy projects from older versions of GastroPlus, and the Visual C++ Runtime Library, a library of Microsoft functions used by GPX. Click Install. Click Next. If you agree with the licensing agreement, click Yes. Choose Standalone for this standalone installation. You don't need the host ID because FlexAir is already installed, your license file is already installed, and your host ID is already known. So you can skip this. Most users will take advantage of the default locations for the software. Click Install. At the completion of the installation, click Finish. The GPX icon should now appear on your desktop. Double-click the icon to start GPX as a regular user, not an administrator. GPX should check out an existing GastroPlus license and start normally. This completes the update to GPX on a standalone installation. Let's update a network installation. In a network installation, the license server is on a shared server or virtual machine, and the GastroPlus application is on a separate end-user machine or virtual machine. Most of our customers use network installations because this allows you to share your licenses between multiple users. As we saw earlier, download the installation zip to the end-user's machine and extract the contents to a new folder. This end-user machine has several versions of GastroPlus installed. Stop any versions of GastroPlus that are running on the end-user's machine. On the end-user's machine, where you have extracted the files from our installation zip, navigate to Setup and run it as administrator. Select GastroPlus 10.1. GastroPlus installer will install a number of prerequisites before installing GastroPlus itself. These are the Access Database Engine, which GPX uses to import legacy projects from older versions of Gastro, and the Visual C++ runtime library. Both of these are Microsoft modules that are embedded in the GPX installer. Click Install. Now the installation of GPX will begin. Click Next. If you agree with the licensing agreement, click Yes. This is a network installation that we're updating, so click Network and then Next. Most users will take advantage of the default locations for the software. Click Next. And again, Next. And click Install. At the completion of the installation, click Finish. The GPX icon should now show up on the end user's desktop. Double-click the GPX icon to start the program as a regular user, not as an administrator. GPX should check out an existing GastroPlus license and start normally. This completes the updating of an end user's machine to GPX in a network installation environment. For licensing, installation, and troubleshooting, email us at support@simulations-plus.com. Visit our website at www.simulations-plus.com. And visit our resource center for more videos, for tutorials, white papers, posters, and other useful materials at www.simulations-plus.com/resource-center. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff. And if you have questions for Jeff or the installation process and setup he just went over, be sure to put those in the Q&A box, and we'll come back to, at the end of the presentations, answer those questions. Now, I know a lot of you have been downloading GastroPlus GPX since its release yesterday, and I'm happy to present our next speaker, Vice President of Simulation Sciences, Neil Miller, who will provide a very efficient rundown of the legacy import process. Neil, welcome.
Thank you very much, Arlene. Let me share my screen for a short recording. The legacy import functionality in GPX allows you to use historical GastroPlus Visual Basic databases in the new project paradigm. To import a GastroPlus database, go to the dashboard view in GPX and click on the icon next to Legacy Import under Existing. You then need to decide whether you want a unique compound per drug record. When importing a database that has drug records containing the exact same compound, GPX will create only one reusable compound asset if the toggle is off. If the toggle is on, GPX will create one compound per drug record and name it after the drug record name in the legacy database. It is important to note that legacy import will not minimize other assets, and you will get a formulation, dosing schedule, and physiology schedule for each record imported into GPX. In this example, we will be importing a database that has 5 drug records with 5 different compounds. Therefore, the unique compound per drug record toggle can be left off. So let's browse to the GastroPlus database. Select the database and then click on Open. Once the legacy import is complete, a summary table will appear below the Import button. The summary table displays the following information for each drug record in the imported database. The drug record, the imported column, this is how you know if the import was successful, compound, drug formulations, dose schedule, physiologies, physiology schedule, and simulation. The summary table is only displayed the first time after the legacy import of that database is done. If you reopen the created project, the table will no longer be displayed in the dashboard view. The summary table is also a static table. That is, it will not reflect any changes you make after importing the legacy database. For example, if you choose to rename or delete any assets, the summary table will not be updated to reflect these changes. Each asset in the summary table is named after the drug record plus the asset name. For example, we have the drug record named furosemide, and then appended on the end is drug formulation. Then in the dose schedule, we had furosemide plus dose schedule. After a legacy import is complete, a .csv file is created containing the legacy import summary information, and this file is located in the same folder as the original GastroPlus database. So here we have the original GastroPlus database and then the legacy import CSV file. Please note that the support files used in your original database, so .opd files, .dsd files, etc., must be in the same folder as the database to be successfully imported and linked to the appropriate asset or simulation in the newly created GPX project. So you can see with the example here, we've got a number of OPD files and they are in the same folder as the database. Once the legacy import is complete, within GPX you can move down the views in the navigation pane and review the assets. So if we go to the observed data, we can then see the various OPD files that were imported with the legacy import. If we go to the compounds view, we can click on the drop-down selector and see the 5 compounds that were created. If we go to the dosing view, expand the formulations panel, we can see the 5 formulations. If we go down to the dosing schedules, click on the drop-down selector, we can see the 5 dosing schedules. If we go to physiologies and then click on the drop-down selector for physiologies, we can see the 5 physiologies, 1 for each record. And finally, we can go to the simulations and see the 5 simulations that were created for the 5 records in the original GastroPlus database. Now let's run a simulation in GPX and compare the results with the original record from the Visual Basic database. So we will select the furosemide simulation and click on Run Simulation. When the simulation is completed, the program will default to the analysis view and the key view. So we will switch the mode to the summary view and we will turn observed data off so we can see all of the parameters. And then we'll open up the Visual Basic database for the same simulation, drag that down, and then we can then compare the parameters. So 14.38 for the fraction absorbed, 11.67 for the fraction of dose in the portal vein, 10.96 for the bioavailability, and then 56.53 nanograms per mil, which is 0.056 micrograms per mil, Tmax 3.6, and you can see that the AUCs match as well as the liver concentration. In GPX, there is an additional column for the clearance. The ultimate test that GPX gives the same results would be to load in the simulated CP time profile from the original Visual Basic database into GPX and link it with the same GPX simulation. So let's go to the Graph tab, then copy the data, copy data to clipboard, and then paste into Excel. And then copy that data, Control C, making a note of the units. So the units are micrograms per mil. So we then go into GPX, into the observed data view, and then we will add an exposure data group. So we'll add, and then we'll call it furosemide. And then with the measurement type set to concentration, click on add, and then we'll say Visual Basic CP versus time. Click on OK. Change the units to microgram per mil. Paste in the data. And then scroll down in GPX to map the data. So that's systemic concentration. And then go to the simulation for furosemide, expand compound settings, scroll down to observe data, select the furosemide, and then run the simulation. Once the simulation is complete, GPX will default to the CP time view, and we can see a perfect match in the simulation from GPX to the original Visual Basic GastroPlus simulation. Hopefully that explains the legacy import, so I will pass back to Arlene.
Thank you, Neil. Yes, so not only will Neil be sitting on the Q&A panel at the end of today's presentations, but you also can catch him at the PAGE conference in June at the Intro to GPX workshop. If you haven't registered, I highly suggest you get that done. Keep those questions coming in. All right, so for the IT departments, we're glad that you're joining us today. The webinar format is a little different. We wanted to be able to give you some pre-recorded videos since we know you guys are furiously taking notes that we can chop up and give to you, and then you can pass those links on to your users for the legacy import, for the installation process. But now we're going to keep the ball going. I'd like to introduce my good friend and farmer scientist to Noam Morningstar-Kywi. He has instructed on many GastroPlus workshops, including last year's record attending PBPK summer camp. And today he's going to detail for you the new validation suite included in GPX. Noam?
Thanks, Arlene. Yes, so I am, there we go. So my name is Noam Morningstar-Kywi. I am a scientist here at Simulations Plus, and today I'll be talking about our verification suite for GPX. So what is the verification suite? In short, it is a script that comes installed with GPX that you can run to make sure that GPX itself is installed properly on the computer and is running simulations correctly. And it does that by automatically running a series of test projects that we have created, as well as some controls via the command line interface for GPX, and compares the simulation outputs with the expected so-called golden reference results that we have come up with. So I'll talk a bit about what the verification suite entails and the report that comes out of it, and then how we came up with those reference results, and then lastly, how to run it. So the test projects that come with the verification suite, we have 17 of them, as well as 2 controls that comprise 89 simulations in total, some of those with multiple compounds. And these cover 5 modules in GPX, our core GastroPlus, of course, ADMET Predictor, the PBPK module, the metabolism and transport, and PK+. And of course, each of these is going to have an individual license as well, which we will come to. And the comparison includes a couple different parts. First, it checks just to make sure that it ran at all, independent of the results. Then it goes on to compare the results. So our summary outputs is first things like FA, FDP, F, Cmax, AUC. Then it looks at the CP time profiles for each compound in the simulation and compares those results to the full profile to the expected results. And then for each example, we have several example-specific series. And what I mean by that is, for example, if we have enterohepatic circulation for that test case, it will compare the mass in the bile and the mass reaching the duodenum, as well as the CP time profile. So we try and hit all relevant aspects of these simulations. And when it does these checks, it checks both the absolute and the percent error, so the difference between the simulation that's just run the test case and the reference results with a 1% tolerance. And when all that is done, it puts out a summary PDF report, which will tell you whether or not the verification was a success. So if we look at some examples of those reports, this is the one-page PDF report that comes out. It's a read-only PDF report, but it does give you the option to print it out. And so if we look at the features on it, this here is an example of one that passed fully. So we have the overall result that it passed, the time that it was run, the MAC address of the computer that ran it, a summary of the tests attempted, compared, and passed, as well as the controls that we included. And then for each test case, it lists them here and confirms whether both the run and the actual comparison of the results did pass. Here is another example of one that passed, however, for limited licensing. So this is an example that we ran with only the core GastroPlus license and the ADMET Predictor license enabled. So we can see here that the ADMET Predictor compartmental and some of our basic simulations did pass both the run and the comparison, but the second ADMET Predictor example depends on the PBPK module, as do some of these other test cases, and then our metabolism and PK plus licenses as well. So it will check these, it will try and detect the licenses, and it will let you know that the license wasn't found. But this is still considered a pass for those modules which are licensed. Some examples of ones that failed. Here is one that failed everything because we manually kind of curated this and locked out some files from the install. So this was missing some files and it failed everything. It tries to give you a bit more information about what happened in the report, but at the end of the day, if you have a failed verification, it is recommended that you just initiate a support call so we can help sort that out for you. And one more example where it failed, just to show you the variety, is this is one where PK Plus did work. We didn't have licensing for some modules, but then the comparison failed for some of the other tests that were run. So it did run it successfully, but the results didn't come out correctly for some reason. And so the comparison failed on this one. So how did we get our reference results? In most cases, this was a comparison to the legacy version of Gastro, although GPX does contain some new features, in which case we just validated the results based on what we expected for those simulations. So this is a plot showing some simulations, a select simulation from each of our test cases for the basic simulations. So in orange, we have our compartmental simulation. Again, we have multiple simulations for each test case. I'm just showing one here for clarity. So the orange line shows the GPX simulation, while the legacy results are shown as the squares. And we can see that this is a perfect match for those. And this is how we verified our golden results, which are then what the test cases run on your computer would be compared to. For the PBPK simple simulation, we see the same thing. And then for the simplified simulation, simplified absorption models are new in GPX, so we don't have a legacy comparator for that, but we do have the ability to compare it just to simple PK calculations to make sure we are getting the expected results. Another example, this is one of the tests from ADMET Predictor for the PBPK ADMET Predictor import. There are actually 21 compounds done in this test, but just for visual clarity, I only chose to show 3. And we can see the same thing where the GPX results match pretty much perfectly with the legacy results. And one more example, this is from the controlled release example, again showing one simulation out of the 8 that are run with that test case. The previous 2 slides, the plots there showed the CP time profiles. Here I'm showing some of the other series that are examined. So with controlled release, of course, what is of interest to us is the amount released, dissolved, undissolved in the gastrointestinal tract. And that's what we're looking at here is from one of the simulations, those 3 series in GPX versus the legacy GastroPlus. And once again, we can see that they match. So the perhaps most important part here is how to run verification suite and view the results. As mentioned, all files required are included with the GPX installation. So that includes both the verification suite exe and the reference projects that will be used to create the test cases. And I should note that those files for the reference projects, the verification suite does check those before running to make sure that they are exactly as expected. So if anything happens to those files during install, or if anyone tries to edit them, it will do a checksum on those files, and the verification report will fail if those don't match. So to run the verification suite, first you navigate to the GPX install directory, typically in program files, and run the verification suite executable, seen here. Make sure, please, that all licenses are available first. So this means we're not running any instances of GPX or of legacy GastroPlus, because that may lead to conflicts that can have a false negative on the pass if it's not able to run because the licenses are taken up by another instance that is active. It will open up a command prompt window where it will run. At that point, you don't need to do any input. You just need to wait for it to run. Depending on the speed of the computer, this can take anywhere from 30 minutes to about 3 hours. Most of the ones that we've seen, at least in our testing, are 30 to 40 minutes. And once it is done, it'll let you know that it's complete in the command prompt window, and you're able to view the report. This is saved to the user's app data folder, as we can see here under the Simulations Plus directory, and it's GPX verification report.pdf right here. And this is the PDF that I showed the examples of previously. It will also output this report.csv, which contains much more detailed information on every simulation run, and that is to help with troubleshooting if the verification report indicates that the verification run failed and we initiate a support call. That report.csv is going to be very helpful to our staff to help diagnose the problem. And so the instructions for this, with some more detail on how to run it and where to find the report, as well as some instructions for different localizations. We have a full PDF summarizing those instructions. It's available on ShareFile in the same place as the GPX installer. And if GPX is already installed, it's also available in the program data folder for GPX. And of course, for any questions or assistance, please email us at support@simulationsplus.com. That concludes my section. Thank you, Arlene. Back to you.
Thank you, Noam. All right, a name not unfamiliar to anyone who has a GastroPlus license. Reina, licensing specialist, joins me next. Monica joined Simulations Plus in 2020 and supports clients through onboarding GastroPlus licenses, Admit Predictor, all of our suite of software platforms, activating trials, and changing license configurations. So Monica, thanks for sitting down with us today to highlight how we are going to support GPX users. Take it away.
Thank you, Arlene. Good morning, everyone, from our headquarters here in Lancaster, California. Today, I'm just going to be doing a quick rundown of licensing for our current customers as well as our new customers. So let me share my screen. Okay, so for current customers, it's important to note that you will not need a new license for GPX. Your current GastroPlus license will be just fine for the upgrade from 9.9 to GPX. Your license contact or your IT who has access to our share file, which is our download portal, they will be able to log in, and all of the installers are there in the shared folders. It's fun this time around. We have our GPX dashboard that actually shows who is licensing the current modules that you guys have licensed. So for anyone who needs a certain module but it's currently checked out, they can go into their dashboard under the licensing tab, and they can see which end user is using that module, has it checked out. The modules that are supported by GPX, if you currently license these, are the GastroPlus Base, DDI, IVIVC, Metabolism, Optimization, PBPK, PD+, PK+, as well as the Admit Predictor, AP Properties, and AP Metabolism. So if those are included in your current GastroPlus license, they are supported for GPX. Okay, so for your IT or anyone who is responsible for installing and downloading the newest version, you will log into your share file at https://simplus.sharefile.com/login. The shared folders, it will be under the GastroPlus X 10.1 installation files. And in there, you'll find instructions, guides, tutorials, and etc. that you will need to get your the update going. For new customers, the process for obtaining a license, we try to make it as easy and streamlined as possible for you guys. So your first point of contact will be someone from our business development team. Your IT or your team should be aware of who your account manager is. If not, then you can reach out to one of us and we can point you in the right direction. You can refer to www.simulationsplus.com/GastroPlusX for an FAQ page and more information. Once a quote has been provided to your team, the license process, it'll begin with access to share file. So again, anybody with administration rights who can run the software installation, the downloads, all of that stuff before it goes to any end user, that's going to be who this is geared towards. Your internal IT is responsible for downloading and installing the GPX software. Once you've gone through the installation and download process, you will get a host ID, which is usually generated to the desktop of whichever machine you're using as your server. The host ID is critical to our licensing process. We can't license your machine without it. And it's a set of characters that it's specific to the licensed server. So once we have that information from you, as well as the contact information, we are happy to get your license going. And it's also important to note that your license term does not begin until we actually generate the license file itself. It doesn't begin when you download the software or anything like that. So if you have a 1-year term, it begins the day that I issue the license. For support, S Plus support is available by emailing support@simulationsplus.com. Installation support is also available at simulationsplus.com/support/software-installation. It's also available by contacting us via web form at www.simulationsplus.com/support/contact support. Paid licenses include technical support at no charge for reasonable telephone, web-based, or email support during their license term. That typically includes decommissions, if you're changing servers, if you're moving end users, anything like that, we're happy to help. And we do have self-help options available online, as well as learning services, which is access to information regarding any trainings, workshops, instructional courses, etc. that can be found at simulationsplus.com/learning services. So if you have any questions, please fill out the Q&A and we will get back to you. And thank you, Arlene.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate the segue directly into closing out our speaker presentations. Our Associate Director of Learning Services, Nathalie Toublanc, is with us today. We've touched upon the how to do the legacy import, how to do the installation setup, and we've talked about what to do with your license that you have. But now let's talk about how to get your teams invested into the learning journey of GPX, of getting PBPK and PBBM modeling and simulation a part of your everyday workflow. All at her fingertips. Nathalie, please let us know how to access these learning opportunities and more.
Okay, thank you, Arlene. So I will just share my screen. Okay. So as Arlene just said, I'm going to talk to you about the training plan that we've put in place to help you transition to GPX, or also for new user to just help you get familiar with the new software. So these are on the right-hand side, the item that I'm going to cover today in the next 10 minutes or so. So the first one is the complementary workshops. So for those who have been using GastroPlus, so legacy GastroPlus, as we said today, before, you're probably familiar with our complimentary workshops, which are 4 hours free session that we give on a monthly basis. For GPX, we decided to increase the frequency to twice a month. So why twice a month versus once a month? It's because there will be some specific session for the new users, so people who have not used legacy GastroPlus before, and also some session for the current user. What will be the difference between the two is that for the new user, we will have a little bit more theory. The slides are going to be the same, but we will focus a bit more on the theory. Whereas for the current user, we assume that the theory is known, and we are not going to spend too much time on that, and we are going to spend a bit more time on the legacy import, because we know that it's something which is important to you. As you can see from the slide, we will have the session on a rotating basis. So in Pacific time, Central European time, and Eastern time. And so rotating for the new user and for the current user. It's going to happen for the next few months. And the first workshop for current user will be on the 4th of June, Pacific time. And for the new user, 11th of June, Central European time. But also we listen to you, and we know that some of you prefer to have on-demand course. So this complimentary workshop is going to be available on demand starting in July. So if you think that 4 hours in a row, and we know that for some people it can be a bit overwhelming, then with the on-demand, you will be able to pace it to your liking. And to complement the complimentary workshop, we've decided also to offer you some open office hours. These office hours will be open to anyone who completed the GPX complimentary workshop, whether the live workshop with an instructor or on demand. And you will have access to the session for 6 months, meaning that if you want to come to multiple sessions, if you've got multiple questions, you are free to attend the one that you want. They will happen on once a week, so they will last for 1 hour once a week. And again, we will have a rotating time zone, so the same as before, so that we hope that we will be able to cover your time zone as well. They will start in June after the first complimentary workshop. You will need to sign up, even if it's free, but it's because we are going to limit the space, because we don't want to have too many people, so that we can address your questions. What we put in place as well for the release of GPX is some tutorials. So you will have a wide range of on-demand videos that will be available to you, so that you will be able to check one specific topics or watch all of them, depending on your need, to help you start your journey with GPX. From here, you can see the list of the topics that are going to be addressed. So you can see quite a few. You should be able to find the thing that you want. The tutorials are between 10 to 20 minutes long, so quite small to be, I don't know, beatable, sizable, eatable. So small size bites. And here on the right-hand side, you can see again, the green line are already available. They are both available on YouTube and on our Simulation Plus training portal, whereas the one in white are not yet available, but they will be coming soon, and they will be available in June. I also included the websites for which you can access directly our training portal. We've also organized some paid workshops. So the first one will be the GPX immersive experience. So what is in the title is that it's going to be running over 1 week. It will be run by what we call internally our super users, our 3 super users, including Neil. And it will be the 3rd week of July. It will be for 3 hours per day over 5 days. And it will be available on 2 time zones, again, Central European time and Pacific time, so that we hope that you can fit one of these time zones will be suitable for you. And obviously, it will be virtual. The idea of that will be not to cover the theory, but much more hands-on. So I would say probably 90 to 95% of it will be really hands-on work, so that after that week, you will feel much more comfortable working with GPX. We will also have our first introductory workshop on PBPK using GPX. And this will be in person. It will be in the US, on the East Coast of the US at the end of September, beginning of October. So it's similar to the introductory workshop that we've done for the Legacy GastroPlus. And it will be nice because we will be able to meet you in person. For those of you who can't or don't want to travel, we will have the same introductory workshop happening virtually in the fall. And as our virtual workshop, it will be over 1 week. The date has not yet been decided. The other way for you to get familiar with GPX is if you travel or if you're going to the PAGE conference, we're having a pre-workshop, 1-day pre-workshop. It's in Rome, in Italy. And the idea, again, will be not to focus very much on the theory, but rather to focus on hands-on, so that after this 1 day of training, you will feel, again, more comfortable finding your way around GPX. And finally, there will be, it's much later, but there will be a half-a-day workshop before the GMP symposium in October in France as well. And here you've got also the address on which you can go if you want to register for any of the paid workshop or the pre-conference workshop. So we know, that even if the science is the same, we wanted to develop GPX because it's got a more efficient workflow, and also we think that it's going to be easier for a new user to learn how to use it because the way that it's been designed. However, we know that for legacy users, it might be a bit stressful. So we will really want to partner with you to help you as much as possible to transition or to get familiar with GPX if you are a new user. And you've seen what we are currently offering as a training, but if you want something else, please reach out to your business development representative and you will be able to get a personalized learning plan. So with that, I've included also some address. I think you've had many addresses where you can reach us. Education is really for training. Information is more for general items, for general questions. So with that, Arlene, this was my last slide. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Nathalie. Let's go into the Q&A. I see we've got some things here, so I'll ask everyone to come off of mute. I will call your name as we assign these questions. So let's hit the first one. Jeff, does GPX work on Citrix?
Hi, Arlene. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Terrific. Yeah, Martin, you definitely can run GPX on Citrix. You're probably asking because you didn't see that third choice in the installer, right? Standalone network and the network on Citrix. That's only because GPX doesn't need a special setup for Citrix. That special setup for Citrix is specific to the VB family of Gastro, Membrane Plus, and DDD Plus. So on Citrix, Membrane Plus and DDD Plus will still require the special selection of the Citrix installation, but GPX doesn't. AdMet Predictor has not required that special selection of Citrix either. So the short answer again is yes, GPX works on Citrix.
Thank you, Martin, for your question. Noam, is there a different reporting for standalone versus cloud validation?
Short answer is no. It runs the same. It runs on the GPX as it accesses it from the user account that's logged in. So the only difference is if you're doing cloud validation, that is if you're running it on a VM, for example, the report will be under the app data of the user who is logged in when it is run.
Great, thank you. Nathalie Venkata asks, can we get this recording available in public domain? If you're talking about today's webinar, it will be available in our resource center. But if you're talking about workshops or introductory workshops that Nathalie was mentioning earlier. I'll let her talk about how you can access maybe some of those items.
My understanding of the question was that it was about the recording for today.
Okay.
I mean, for the workshop, for the complimentary workshop, which is for our, again, the recording will be available for free on our training website starting in July, but it's not yet available. And for the other workshop, they are not going to be recorded. So you will have to come and attend one of them.
Great, thank you. Jeff, back to you. Can old versions run with a GPX license?
Answer is yes. It's exactly the same license. So GPX would run with your old Gastro licenses, or if you're a new GPX customer with a GPX license, you could actually go back and install older versions of Gastro if you had any reason to. And it's all the same license. If you have multiple versions of Gastro over the years installed on one machine, running a single version requires 1 seat license. If you run 2 different versions of Gastro at the same time on the same machine, that requires 2 seats. So for those of you that want to run both GPX and Gastro 983 or Gastro 99, if you want to run them side by side on one machine, that will check out 2 seats, 1 for each version.
Thank you, Amir. We hope that answered your question. Neil, Dan asks, is there a preferred computer configuration for GPX?
I'd ask for a little bit more detail on that. I don't think so is the short answer. But what do you mean then by computer configuration?
We'll give him a couple of seconds to add that into chat. I think our operating systems are the same. You can visit our website. If you go to the right-hand side, there's a support tab with a drop-down caret there. You can see software installations. We've got some FAQs there. We also have what our required configuration for memory, for storage is. I'm very excited that within the installation folders that Monica had viewed in her slideshow, you can see now there's a new scientific principles guide, an equations guide, Noam's validation suite data there. So it looks like we are providing a very easy transition for everyone into what you're going to need to help you through this process. It looks like we're coming up on time. So if there are no more questions, Jasmine, I think we've hit everything unless you see something different in chat.
No, I think we covered it all. But if anything comes up, you can reach out to our BD team and they can follow up with you after the webinar. You can also visit our website to learn more about GPX. I put a couple links in the chat where you can find tutorials, upcoming workshops, and you can also check back for our future webinars. Follow us on social. This webinar has been recorded for playback and will be available on our website and YouTube channel. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.